My old days? Ha! You must have me discombobulated for some human wretch. Don't ever mistake me for old again. Every second of every moment in time, I am always at my apex. I am always at my best. Now, you had a question you wanted asked? My adventures afore becoming queen? What in the astral plane would establish such a jejune question? My goodness, it's virtually like you optate me to commence to turn to ash. Well, I suppose it can't be availed. Where to even commence? There were many things I accomplished during my peregrinates across that island so long ago. I faced a slew of abhorrent beasts and had to bear through the constant illogical chattering of my company. The druid was by far the worst of the bunch. She always endeavored to fight against my objective ascendancy no matter what it was about. Yet she and her preposterous husband? Affirmative. I suppose that's what you would call them, though. Then again, I wouldn't call two rats orally consuming together a pristine designation of holy matrimony. He. Ah, such bliss their incompetence brings me. I must authentically thank their parents. It is because of them that they defiled their bodies to make such frivolous sacks. It is because of them that history will now always have a worse and preponderant. Them being the worse off, of course. Such bliss. The captain! Yes, my husband. We met during my return to my abode kingdom, one which I had found to be run by my tardy advisory. He's dead now, of course. Nothing to be done about that now, though. Veraciously, his death is a benediction to his entire lineage. To have your place taken by such an impeccable and grand being such as myself is nothing short of a miracle. To celebrate that such a being akin to me would even grace your position with myself is incomprehensible. Yet I did so anyway. He must genuinely be profuse of gratitude, in whatever grave he now rots in now. Right, my husband. I had caught his interest and him mine. We slumbered together on the first night I arrived. It was love at first optical discernment, something no other creature, even the druid, would ken about. Me and my profound appreciation were inseparable, until we were dissevered, of course. Ironic, I ken. Regardless, my body would never forget his pressing into mine, that Goliath of a man. Genuinely, he was stimulating. Many ask me why I still lay and dine with him, why I'm still espoused to such a strange man, and my answer, while simple, is the only one I require. He consummates me. He druid, genuinely have I never met someone so graced with purport, yet deserving of none of it. God, or whatever sickly creature that controls fate, must take a giggle to his games. The ignominiousness that God gave me during my ventures upon that island was nothing short of heresy. To celebrate that I, the Arch-Queen, would be overlooked while a lowly, muddled creature such as the druid would be optically canvassed as the keeper and embodiment of death itself. Ugh! The very inkling of the phrenic conception makes my skin boil. The druid was a veritable menace to my very subsistence. Never had I met someone so beret of grace and dignity. She verbalized with me like as if she verbalized with a commoner. The disgrace. If my mother were still drawing breath, I voraciously believe she would die from visually perceiving me and her even standing in the same room. I would. But, to give credit where it's due, she was my only genuine light while I peregrinated. She was the only one to pose any veritable perspicacious threat to me. Her words verbalized veritable, and her comebacks were expeditious and witty. And in whatever gaps she had in lexicon, she up for in her vulgarity. Genuinely, no one else stood against me such as she did. Which is why I always count the days till I can kill that sow and take her soul, only to crush it. My last and final censurable congeniality. Children. I used to hate the conception of having any of my own afore meeting my husband, and even then I believed that my sexual faculties would sanction me to stave off such a fate. However, the jester god who looked over my venture on the island would have other plans. While me and my company had culminated solving a tiresome maze, tiresome for me authentically, as the phrenic jejunity it provided in its soi-disant puzzles would be more stimulating for those infants than myself. Ha! Such inept filth. Anyway, back to the story. After solving it and meeting with one of the Nexus Ascenders, who just so transpired to be an old rival of mine, Frida, what a waste of elven blood. Authentically, once I had visually perceived that she had joined up with them, or authentically, visually perceiving how they sanctioned her to join, I had this group deciphered. No veridical threat to me would ever endeavor to bring my supposed rival as a challenge. However, what can you do, as such lowly creatures with no veridical prodigy such as myself to guide them? They had to work with what they had. I believe if I was them, I would simply just commit suicide. Such an act would bode better than an endeavor at endeavoring to best me. Write the story. Well, Frida had gotten herself some scarcely magical time watch, and since all of her magical faculties did naught to me, as expected, she utilized it me. While I simply shrugged at such an endeavor, it would not leave me without an incipient responsibility. Affirmative, it would turn out that after me and my husband had slumbered together, I was with child. A veritable shock to me at the time, but I cerebrate and don't get me perplexed for a believer in fate when I verbally express this. But I voraciously believe that my daughter was the best thing to ever transpire to me. I must thank Frida, as she preserved me from the troubles of childbearing. However, a pity shouldn't preserve me from parenting. Elfredia, my little girl, my darling, my heart and my soul love. Her ocular perceivers are like emeralds, and her voice is like honey on warm tea. She is authentically comely and stark exasperating. While I am profuse of gratitude for her being alive and being my firstborn, she is such an onerous brat, always having to verbalize with repugnant half-breeds and even endeavoring to make good with humans. How ignominious. Had my mother or even father been alive, they'd visually perceive her shunned. It's a good thing I'm her mother. Otherwise, I cerebrate I'd just have her killed. Preposterous girl.